Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for the commitment that you have shown to content that has been published on this channel on a regular basis. And if you are new, I want to welcome you. I want to inform you that this is a channel that you will find content on personal development, leadership and life management. If you are interested in content along this line, I wish to request that you subscribe and also hit the notification button so that each time I publish videos you will be notified. My name is Kpamor Suleh, and this week I wish to give you content on the lessons that we can learn from the retrenchment of pastors of Living Faith Church. Now, recently there have been a retrenchment exercise in the ministry of Living Faith, and a lot has been discussed about it. And I want to extract some lessons from that incident, lessons that I believe that will be very, very helpful to us. Now, permit me to inform you that I am not speaking on behalf of the retrenched pastors, neither am I speaking on behalf of the Living Faith Church. I only want to approach the matter as a neutral personality who wishes to extract some lessons that will be helpful to us. And the first point that I wish to bring across to you is that leaders need to be compassionate in their proactiveness. Now, I discussed with one of my subscribers because when this happened, I published a clip last week where the presiding bishop was responding to the discussions on the matter. And I published that video because I wanted it to be a prelude to the content that will be published this week. And one of my subscribers engaged me in a discussion on the matter, and he expressed concern on the urgency of the tone in the letter. And I quite understand with him, and that's why I'm saying that leaders need to be compassionate even when actions or inactions that contravene the vision or mission of their organizations have been exercised by their employee, especially when those actions or inactions do not have threats to life or property in the immediate term. They need to exercise some kindness and exercise some level of caution if those actions or inactions do not have immediate harm either to humans or to property or the organizations or the organization in general. However, I want to bring a point that I saw in the letter that may be a pointer to us as to maybe what would have gone on in the process. If you have seen that document, you will observe that there is an issue that was raised regarding performance reviews. Now the question is, we don't know if these performance reviews are just an instant event that happens, and at that very moment, if you are found wanting, you are let go of the organization, or maybe there are reviews that are undertaken over a period of time, and within that period of time the employee usually have feedbacks about his performance, and only when he fails to improve in his performance is he retrenched. Now, we don't have details of that, but I want to say that if those performance review have such a structure, then such a structure needs to be applauded. And generally my point is that in the proactiveness of leaders, as it has to do with actions or inactions that have been taken in their organizations that contravene the vision or mission of that organization, they need to express some compassion when these actions or inactions do not have threat to life or threat to the organization's property. The second point that I want to bring for us to learn is that we need to be careful where and when we append our signatures. we need to be careful where and when we append our signatures. Now, the matter has become so critical now, especially because of the unemployment that is on very high across the world. You see employees who have been absorbed into organizations signing acceptance letters, signing documents that they are committing themselves to without knowing the interpretations of those documents, or without knowing the consequences that will be meted upon them should they fail to meet up with the requirements in those documents that they have signed. Sometimes some employees even take up jobs in organizations that do not even have a well-defined condition of service. Now, the question we can ask from this situation is it possible that these performance reviews and the structure of the performance reviews were in the documents that were given to these employees, and they didn't study them and they didn't understand what the consequences were? Or is it that those performance reviews were not in the documents that were given to them? Or maybe the organization did not have a condition of service, or maybe the organization had a condition of service but the employees took it for granted, not taking time to study the content of that condition of service. Now, when you fail to be conscious of official documents to which you need to append your signature, you may be mortgaging your privileges and your right. And I believe so much that this is what has happened in this situation. Is either those documents were not available, which I doubt, because this organization has been in existence for a number of years now. They must have had those documents. Or it's possible that this employee never took time to study those documents and understand the consequences that will be meted on them should they fail to meet up with the church growth index that was referred to in that letter. The third point that I want us to get and learn from this incident is that leaders need to develop themselves into indispensable leaders. It has become imperative that leaders are concerned not only about being effective, but also being indispensable. Indispensability is when a leader ingrains himself into an organization, the future of an organization, in such a way that he is considered an integral part of that future. When a leader does that, it is practically impossible for such a leader to be considered dispensable. Or even when he is considered dispensable, the organization will know and realize that it does so at its own detriment. And such a leader who has ingrained himself to the future of an organization, even if he is retrenched, he will leave the organization with his head high, knowing that he is a resourceful person that will easily be located by another organization. Could it be that these leaders that were retrenched were not indispensable? That was why they were retrenched. And that could be a possibility. Or could it be that they were indispensable, but they were all the same still retrenched by this organization? And I believe so much that if they were indispensable and yet retrenched, then the person who is a loser will not be them who are retrenched. It will be the organization that has lost those resourceful persons. So there wouldn't have been any hurtful feelings from these employers, because it's evident that they would have been resourceful persons that will easily find another place to deploy their leadership. Now the fourth and the fifth point that I want to bring across to you have arisen from the response that the presiding bishop gave in regards to the issue. He said that the pastors were retrenched because they were considered unfruitful. And then the fourth point I want to bring to you is that it is only the master that can determine the state of his servant. It is only the master that can determine the state of his servant. We have a counsel in the book of Romans chapter 14 and verse 4 when Paul was writing to the church in Romans. And he asked them that who are they to judge another man's servant? It is the master who determines if his servant falls or if he stands. And in this case, we can safely say that the Living Faith Church, and indeed the presiding bishop of that ministry, is the master of this servant. And so if after evaluation he considers that this servant of his has fallen, that they do not meet up with standard, then I think that should be okay by every one of us who are merely admirers or observers. Because being the master to this servant, it behoves on him and him alone to determine the true state of his servant. That does not mean that every determination of a master goes unchecked. But every determination of a master goes checked because he also has a master. And in this case, God is the presiding bishop's master. And so if for any reason he had judged his servant wrongly, you can be sure that God will hold him responsible for that judgment. So it is not our responsibility, in my opinion, to determine whether these pastors were standing or to determine if these pastors met the standard or did not meet the standard. The fifth point that I want to bring across to you is that it is only the master that determines the fruitfulness or otherwise of his servant. It is only the master that determines the fruitfulness or otherwise of his servant. We have a story in the book of Mark 11, beginning from verse 13, where Jesus was on a journey and he came across a fig tree that had beautiful leaves, and he expected fruit from it. When he approached the fig tree, he could not find fruit on the fig tree. And out of displeasure, he cursed that fig tree, that no man will ever eat from that fig tree at all. Following day, Peter was with him, and Peter called to remembrance, telling him that, Master, the fig tree that you cursed has withered away. And that scenario portrays to us that we can safely consider Jesus to be the master over that fig tree. And if he is the master over that fig tree, then him alone can determine the fruitfulness of that fig tree. You will note that in that story, the Bible says that the fig tree developed leaves. And these leaves can be considered as efforts, beautiful efforts that will be applauded by you and I who are admirers. But the master, who is the one who has done investment in that fig tree, knew that what he expects of that fig tree, based on the investment that he has done, should be fruits and not just leaves. And so based on that, he considered the fig tree to be unfruitful. I know very well that many observers would have considered Jesus to be unfair to that fig tree, judging by the leaves that they saw. And we can safely apply this story to the event that we have at hand. The ministry of a living faith, and indeed the presiding bishop, is a master of this servant. They alone has invested in this servant, and so they know what they are expecting from them. And if by that judgment they found out that they have not produced to expectation and they say that the servants are unfruitful, I think that judgment should be accepted by us. Those of us who are admirers and viewers, maybe followers of these pastors, may have seen leaves, and we may have considered these leaves, these efforts that we can consider leaves to be applaudable, to be praiseworthy. But we have not done investment in this pastor, and so we don't stand a better chance to tell if they are fruitful or not. It is a Living Faith Church and indeed the presiding bishop that can tell if they are fruitful or not. So if they have given a judgment or a determination that they are not fruitful, being the masters of this servant. And I think it is up to us to accept that judgment. And like I said in the point before, that does not mean that such judgment cannot be checked. The presiding bishop also has God as his master. So every judgment that he does and every determination that he gives will also be checked by his master. And if for any reason he has been wrong in any judgment, he will be held accountable for that judgment or that determination that he did. And it is not up to us to begin to check if his determination concerning the fruitfulness of his servant is true or false. The last point that I want to bring to you is that every leader, irrespective of the extent to which he has developed his leadership potential, is still a human. And because he's still a human, he is liable of making mistakes. He is liable of saying or doing things that have potential of causing hurt to the people that he leads. And so it behoves on us as people who are being led to develop our character to a point that we will become hurt-free. I actually published a video last week that was on this matter. Little did I know that there was a matter that was going to come up that will require that knowledge. And in that video, which I titled, "Who do you blame when you are hurt?" I said that it is not people nor the circumstances that happen around us that actually cause us hurt. It is a consent that we give these people and the consent that we give these circumstances that actually cause us hurt. And so if a leader has acted wrongly and we have developed potentials to be hurt-proof, then in such events we can only depend on our character not to be hurt. But if we have not developed that character, then such actions or inactions by a leader will breed bitterness in our heart. And I believe this is actually what happened. I am not here to judge the living faith whether they acted wrongly or rightly, but I know that if the people who were led had developed their character to a very large extent, irrespective of the reason for which this action was taken, they would have not been hurt. We have also heard an information that about 40 people were retrenched, and we have heard only about a few of them. We don't know whether the others are also lamenting in silence, or maybe they have developed this character and that's why we have not heard of them. What I'm saying in essence is that for those of us who are being led, we need to know that our leaders are still human, irrespective of how excellent they would be in leadership deployment. So it behoves on us to develop our characters to become hurt-proof in an event that the actions of our leaders are unbecoming or the actions of our leaders are overbearing. In such situation, we depend on our character to be hurt-proof. Thank you very much. I hope that this point will help you improve your life and help you in the deployment of your leadership. Like I said, the first point is that leaders need to be compassionate in their proactiveness. The second point, I said that we need to be careful where and when we append our signatures. The third, I said that we need to develop ourselves into indispensable leaders so that circumstances do not take us unawares. The fourth, I said that it is the master that determines the state of his servant. And the fifth, I said that it is the master that determines the fruitfulness or otherwise of his servant. And then the last, but by no means the least, I said that any leader at all, irrespective of the extent to which he has developed his leadership potential, is still a human, and so is capable of causing us hurt. And so it behoves on us to develop ourselves, our character, to be hurt-proof. Thank you very much for this time. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, I urge you to hit the subscription icon. Also hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload content on this channel, you will be notified. Thank you very much for this time. I hope to see you next week, Thursday, 6 p.m. GMT +1. God bless you.